He really did. Like he
Yeah,
acted totally
they starting
different.
off. They playing good right now. It's a fun series to watch.
It is.
So we're back yet again. It's your boy G, along with DJ and Alec for another episode. I think I'll tune into our last one. Talked a whole lot about the Warriors and Kings series. Glad that's going well. And there's a lot of angles that we discussed it within it with Draymond and all of that. But back to continue on across other things in the playoffs. Here in LA, we want to continue to talk about things going on here. And the Clippers are playing and off to a solid start. Russ is looking good in things, and they're going up against the Suns to bounce back in game two to the series. And just want to continue to look at all things going on there and all things that can go on beyond that in the series. So fun things here. Excited to get back into it. Again, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Appreciate it all. We'll go ahead and run this intro one more time and we'll get back into it. Appreciate y'all. All right, so y'all see what it is. The energy's there, man. They starting off strong. We wanted to see Russ and KD get back to it, and they bring the energy in this series, and love what we're seeing. Russ has looked good, and glad to see him bouncing back. KD's looking good again over on Phoenix there, alongside Aiden and those boys, and it's definitely been a fun start to this series. How you guys feel about how things are going so far, and which way are you guys leaning? I'll go with you first, Alec.
Yeah. I think it's kind of played out how I expected it so far. I thought it would be a competitive series. I favored the Clippers in the end. I got the Clippers in 7, but they took care of business. Like they stole one on the road. That's really all you can ask for going into Phoenix on the road, and I think it kind of set the tone for the series as well too. I think Phoenix maybe wasn't ready quite for their physicality and their intensity in that game one. And Russ came out. He shot abysmal from the field. It was like 3 of 19. Couldn't throw it in the ocean, but he was doing literally everything else on the floor. I mean, he was rebounding, facilitating, blocking shots, stealing balls. Like he was all over the place. Clutch free throws at the end, clutch offensive rebounds, and of course the block on Devin Booker,
Right.
and throwing it off him to get possession. So he made his impact felt in game one, and I thought that was pivotal to them taking that first game on the road. And I think it's going to be a hotly contested series throughout. But I think what stands out to me is that the Clippers have a lot more depth than the Suns do. They have a lot of 3-and-D guys, a lot of guys that can switch, and a lot of guys that are contributing first and foremost. The Suns rotation, I think Monty Williams played up to like 10, 11 guys in that game one. He's still trying to figure things out. As we talked about, KD, they were 8-0 or 7-0 with KD before the playoffs started. But they really hadn't had a whole lot of time with this Suns team together with KD. So still kind of figuring things out, but they really don't have very deep of a rotation. It's really like 7 guys kind of that are contributing. So I think that's going to play a factor because you got KD and Booker playing 45 minutes last game. You got washed ass CP3 playing 38 minutes. That's going to add up, man. That's going to add up. CP3 is old. He always breaks down in the playoffs. He won't fail to do it once again. So I think it's going to favor this Clippers team, who potentially is going to get back Paul George as well. We saw him warming up before game 2. So, yeah. I like the Clippers' chances in the series.
Yeah, DJ, what you think?
I think Alec probably hit on the biggest point, was that the Clippers are just flat out deeper and more versatile than the Suns, in my opinion. I think the Clippers have more real contributors down the roster outside the top 5. And a parallel, I know we're not talking about this series, but Cleveland, they shortened their rotation for game 2 and only played exactly 7 guys. And they ended up having a totally different type of game. And I think that's what Monty Williams is kind of having to go through right now. And it's another good point that Alec brought up, was that KD hasn't been fully healthy the whole time he's been there. So the rotations probably aren't ironed out at this point. And I'm not sure if Phoenix is super comfortable with a few number of different lineups that he's probably put out there already this series. So one thing I'm looking at again is the Clippers did come out with a heightened sense of physicality, which I think they kind of had to, because if you let Phoenix have their way, which we saw last night, if you're not physical and you're not being an agitator and delaying screens and getting them off their rhythm, you're gonna let Booker, minimum he's shooting 50%. KD's shooting minimum 50%. Those guys, when they're playing their game, that's what you get is efficient basketball. If the Clippers are able to disrupt that and get somebody in foul trouble, I think that's when they start to expose Phoenix's lack of true depth. So I think overall, especially if Paul George comes back, that gives the Clippers the really good advantage, or good chance. But I just have a hard time not saying Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Chris Paul, if he stays healthy, and Ayton don't find a way to win 4 out of 7 in this series.
Right. Yeah, definitely some interesting things here. Obviously, the X factor is still Paul George coming back, seeing how good the Steelers squad has already been. Without him, adding him into the mix later on in this series, though he will have to acclimate pretty fast to the playoffs. I think he's one of them players that can do so, and will be ready for the moment, and will definitely help the squad if and when they get there. So definitely some things to keep your eyes on. With this Sun squad, I tried to hype them up and talk about how they were great so far with Kevin Durant. The regular season being 7-0 on the regular season, and they came in and lost game 1 and immediately shut that down. So they did bounce back and redeem themselves and win that last game, but still they continue to build on that dynamic duo they have of KD and Booker, and then they find more help outside of them. I said Ayton has the potential to be a top 3 center in this league. I haven't seen anything close to that just yet. While he has been solid, I want to see some uptick somehow for him to find his footing more so in the paint there. That definitely could help as Chris Paul likes to run his pick and roll and all that kind of stuff with him, and that opens up things further for KD and Booker on the outside. So we'll see how things like that continue to play going forward. And just excited for it all. Alec, you already have Kawhi is different on your tag there. Would you say Kawhi is the X factor for this series?
Kawhi is the X factor?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I would say Kawhi is the X factor. Because Kawhi is just being Kawhi.
Sure.
And I think you know what you're going to get from him. I
guess so, but at the same time, people kind of started to obviously maybe forget about him, I guess.
I agree. I agree with that.
It was him like that.
To underrate him. Yeah, I pulled up his numbers through the first 2 games: 34.5 points, 2 steals, 6 assists, 6.5 rebounds, 60% from 3, 54.5 from the field, 88% free throw. He's been dominant on both ends of the floor. Yep. And I think he's clearly been the best player in the series and will be. I think he is. We forgot that this dude can lead a team to a championship. Because there's so much load management and them being careful about his minutes throughout the regular season. As Ty Lue said, they've kind of been saving him up for this moment in the playoffs. He's playing 40 minutes, averaging 40 minutes through the first 2 games. I think he's going to play close to that while Paul George is out. It might go down a little bit if Paul George comes back. But yeah, man, I think he's the best player to me in this series because of what he can do, not only offensively being their engine, but then also being an elite defender, pretty much guarding anyone on the floor other than the 5. So I think Kawhi is reminding folks of who he is for sure in this series.
You agree, DJ?
I actually think the X factor is probably Paul George, to be honest, because Paul George is going to show up. Trying to be a little funny, trying not to be a little bit serious as well, because if it's the inconsistent in his head Paul George,
go ahead and say if it's way off P, it's gonna be
if it's podcast P,
is it way off or is it playoff P? You know
exactly.
what I mean? So, and I mean, yes, the Clippers did steal home court, but that was a very, very competitive game until the end. That I think Phoenix was they were in that game for probably a good half of that game too. So I think Paul George, if it's the good Paul George, that puts the Clippers in a very, very good spot because again, they are deep. They're more versatile, and Paul George only adds to that. And not only offensively, Paul George is an elite defender as well,
Mhm.
1 through 4, when he's right. So if Westbrook continues to keep buying in, you have 3 elite perimeter athletes
Yeah.
defending, one of the best offensive systems in basketball. But the Clippers are already out rebounding Phoenix in this series. I think that's where DeAndre Ayton might be an X factor for Phoenix.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I if you had to ask me who the real X factor is in this series, I probably would say if Paul George comes back, which Paul George are they getting?
Yeah, I think
There is
a
some
good
talk that he could miss the whole series. If he does not come back this series, does that change things for you guys?
It does not. It does not. Because I have like a slight concern, kind of to DJ's point. If Paul George does come back, does it throw off the rhythm like a little bit? Because as you said, G, he's gonna have to acclimate, and they've been playing really good ball with Russ and Kawhi leading the way. I mean, like
Even with Russ's inefficiency shooting too.
even with him shooting 3 of 19, they still were able to come
Yeah,
out with
so
a W.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a little bit of a concern, but I think it overall should be more of a benefit to have Paul George back because
I
in
agree.
that game two they potentially win with Paul George there as well because Kawhi and Russ were the only ones really contributing offensively for that team. Like Norman Powell and Batum and Highland were like 0 of 12 from 3. So if
Yeah,
you have
Norman
Paul
Powell
George
can't
in
do that
there,
if they're gonna win. They need Norman
exactly.
Powell if they're gonna win for
They
sure.
need him to be the number 3 scorer if Paul George is going to be out for the entire series. So if PG is there, they have a chance to really win that game too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think Paul George. I like the X factor take from you, DJ, for sure.
Got it. So definitely keep our eyes on that. Definitely some fun things there. The last thing we'll talk about, because we talked a lot now about the Clippers side. Getting back to the Suns a little bit. Alec, you've been vocal about your hate for Chris Paul.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a
any
beautiful,
comment as
beautiful tweet.
He finally beat the Scott Foster allegations this last game. Does that impact how the series is going to go going forward? Will that help any at all? Does that make any difference to you as they win that game last night?
Hey, listen, Chris Paul, congrats! You got to get your little mid-range game off. Got to act like it was 2007 again or whatever. But no, I don't think Chris Paul is going to have much success in this series to close this series because I think Ty Lue is going to make adjustments. They're playing that drop coverage and letting Chris Paul get downhill and just get to his spot and get comfortable. You can't allow that to happen. Zubac was playing a little bit too far down on a lot of those drops, especially. I mean, he was still closing out on Devin Booker, but it was like too late. He's a little bit too far away. Like you can't allow those guys to get hot and get in a rhythm. But I think Ty Lue is going to make that adjustment for sure going into this next game. And I think Chris Paul is going to break down as well. So it's all good.
Got it. As much as I see that as a possibility, I think there's enough pieces now around him on that Sun squad. Though we did talk about their depth and them trying to figure it out still. I think they can still be able to manage without Chris Paul if that's the case. And with him, I think that they have, as we pointed out to again, the pieces to continue to make this series and go on and potentially win it. So we'll see. These are what you think about Chris Paul's impact on this series so far.
I think this conversation is kind of a similar parallel to what we were just talking about with Paul George and the Clippers because Chris Paul was not aggressive and he didn't score a whole lot game 1.
Yeah, he's 2 for 8, I think. Yeah.
Something like that. But last game, Chris Paul was 8 of 14 from the field, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, and a block. So that's an active Chris Paul, in 38 minutes. Like, I don't think you can rely on that level of energy, let alone production. I think he probably regressed to somewhere moderately below that in terms of like his series averages. But, with or without Chris Paul, I think that just speaks again to the Phoenix's ability to kind of not plug somebody in, but they have guys that are capable of running the offense where the shot spread doesn't get affected super crazy if Chris Paul is not super aggressive or if he's not even on the floor. For me, the difference is going to be how consistent can the Clippers play great defense. and if the Suns can match that physicality over the course of this whole series. But if it gets to that physical thing, that's when you're looking at Chris Paul, his track record. I don't think he's finished a series in a while.
Right.
That's true.
Unfair or unfair, like Chris Paul is a bit of an X factor, but I don't know how big or how little it really affects the whole series, really, because basically you would be relying on Chris Paul to be doing what he did last night again, at least 16 points, at least 7-8 assists, and for him to contribute on the boards, which is something that you're not necessarily asking him to do. But if Westbrook continues to play well, you're gonna need your guards to be further like helping the cause on both. So
if they got Chris Paul playing 38 minutes a night and KD playing 45, I don't think that's a recipe for success.
Maybe not throughout the whole playoffs. Maybe one series or something. But
maybe you can get them out of round one. But.
Yeah, I don't know
what
how
happens
they'll keep up.
What happens if they run into the Nuggets or even like the Lakers or like a team that's deep and stretches you?
Yeah.
Right.
Pause.
Yeah. I knew.
Very pause. Yeah.
I knew. As soon as I heard it, I was like, "G's gonna say something."
Hey yo.
It was come on. Anyways, they did point out. I think it was last game. That Chris Paul has had trouble already just keeping up with the young guards that the Clippers have. Bones on them boys was just running right past them. A lot of fast breaks, and Chris was just looking around like, "Hey, what's going on? Ain't no foul. You just slow, bud. Like, it is what it is." So yeah, we'll see how he's able to sustain. But a guy who may not technically be young, but is keeping up with them, as we pointed out already. Russell has been looking good so far, even in 319 games. He had 319 game in the first one, then he had 20 piece in the last one.
Yeah, he was nice.
So just where he pointed out about him and KD and all that stuff. But just a last note, Alec, as you flip sides in a way. You got the Clipper jersey.
Oh, the Clipper shirt.
Any last words of praise for Russ as we get out of here?
I'll say if the Clippers get a championship with Russ on the team, I will get a Russ Clippers jersey. I'm sorry. I'm telling you right now.
So you already got the shirt, so that's fine.
Hey, the shirt was free because I went to a game, but yeah, I have never purchased anything Clippers in my life, but if they get it with Russ on the squad, guarantee I'll be getting a Russ jersey.
You'll get a Russ jersey. I'll get PG jersey. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Honestly, obviously, we're diehard Lakers fans, but this Clippers team has a lot of players that I like individually, other than Russ too. Like I love Kawhi too. Love Norman Powell. That's another UCLA boy. So
and as you know, I wouldn't say diehard. I'm a fan. I like y'all. I mean, you cool.
This is true. You're more of a Kings guy. You're more of a Kings guy.
I like basketball. That's what I like.
But sticking with Russ, I've been really proud of how he played, especially in game one, not having a good shooting night, but still figuring out a way to make an impact regardless. That's a game where people are going to be shitting on him if they lose that and he shoots 3 for 19. Right. But he, even in a horrible shooting performance, was largely the reason that they won the game. Obviously, Kawhi had 38 too, but they don't win that game without Russ's offensive rebounding defense. So I think he's going to have to continue to have that high motor. The Lakers are probably looking at this like, where was that when you were with us? But there's a few variables as to why I feel like
that's a whole nother conversation, bro.
Exactly. There's a few variables as to why I don't think he was performing in that fashion with them. But I love his energy, his intensity defensively. There was that clip of the Suns broadcaster talking about the Suns are going to try to set the tone in game 2, before the game started, and Russ was standing on the side. He was like, "Good luck." So I just love the energy he's bringing to the series, and I believe it'll continue. And especially if PG is out, he's going to need to be their second best guy. So,
got it.
Good on him.
They'll be happy for him. Glad that he's bounced back. Love what he's doing over there for the Clippers. Those are the other side of the building there. Just hope that things continue to go well for him, whether win or loss. So just excited things there. I'll throw this out. We're 2 games in across the board for all these series. We've seen with that just a little bit of how these teams are looking going into the playoffs. So as things have gone so far, at least on the West side, what match would you like to see now for the Western Conference Final of what you've seen from these groups so far.
I mean, we've been begging for it for years. Gotta see Lakers Clippers.
Got it.
Especially with the added storyline now of Russ being on the Clippers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think we need that. The streets need that.
Understood.
What about you, DJ?
I think, honestly, as a basketball fan, any mixture of Lakers, Kings, Clippers in the Western Conference Finals is good energy, and it's
Lakers
good
Kings
for.
would be great too.
I think the Kings would be so cool, because that would really springboard them to be more proactive and adding more players to just keep it going. Yeah, I mean, bias aside, I genuinely think with this jaw injury, the Lakers have a good chance to go through.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's many teams that want to see the Lakers in a 7-game series. I also
agree.
don't think there's a lot of teams that want to see the Clippers in a 7-game series, especially if Paul George is back.
Right.
So,
right.
Man, yeah, the West is crazy. Jaw is definitely not fine in the West. The West is
no.
Yeah,
they announced that Jaw's out for game 2 as well.
I would have been shocked if he played. That was one of the more like in one of those incidents where I was like, oh my goodness, like.
Yeah, and he said his pain was at a 10 out of 10 like yesterday, so I didn't expect him to play tonight. Yeah,
right.
Let's go. You guys brought it up, so we'll go ahead and throw it out there real quick. There's been a lot of talk. There's been fans talking about how they should ban the charge. What do y'all think about people? The NBA potentially banning the charge next season?
No, I don't like that. I don't know why Mark Cuban was campaigning for that so hard.
Do you know how many more points Giannis would average without the charge foul? That would be so stupid. Like, for real. Like, if anything, maybe they should extend the circle like 6 inches, 7 inches out.
Yeah, they're talking about like bringing the restricted area like out closer to the free throw line or whatever. But you're taking away a basketball play. You're taking away defensive function. You're taking away like game-changing type stuff, So I will say,
to me, that's rewarding players not having body control and not having basketball IQ.
I will say the one charge call I hate is when they call it on guys passing the ball off at the like, because that's not really defense to me. Like, you're standing in the way of a guy that's passing the ball. I don't know.
Right.
But I've never really loved that charge call, but other than that, I don't think you should remove it.
I think there's nuance to that specific action that you're talking about, Alec, because most of the time you're not beating your man, coming downhill off a pick, getting in your shooting motion, or like going for a runner and then just dishing it straight to the corner. You usually have some deliberate action to where you're passing the ball. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I agree with. But overall, I don't think they should take away the charge. That man, stop it. like Giannis would be averaging
50 points.
He literally, that's a 40 ball.
I agree. I think so. I forgot who pointed it out, but it's like also these guys that keep getting these situations who can't seem to figure out how to get around these charges or whatever. Get your float game right. Learn some more dribble moves or whatever you got to do. Expand your game so you can stop getting these instances where you're jumping over guys and getting yourself hurt. So I think that's on. It's on the offensive guy a little bit at least to adjust to these screens. As we know, it's been a rule forever now for them to adjust when they know they're driving down the lane and finding more ways to get the ball in the basket. Euro step if you got to do that, or get your floater right or something. Learn some more moves. Can't be Pascal Siakam just spinning around in circles all day long. Why does Siakam have to get a shot there? Come on. I was thinking people's in their moves in the paint or whatever.
Literally, but for real, it's those players: Giannis, Siakam, Westbrook, like the guys that have no bag, that literally just they need to go downhill.
Why are we shooting at guys for not having a bag now?
Why is Russ in there like that?
They're still scoring, but like,
oh my goodness, this turned into a hater segment.
It's just downhill.
Hey, Alex, you listen to hater cast.
People have been saying for years though, John needs to learn how to land too. Like the way he takes off and jumps, like it's dangerous. Like it's high flying. Acrobatic stuff,
as Vic said, he lives reckless. That's just how he does. So and it is what it is.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, definitely a lot of things to keep our eyes on across the playoffs with these rules that people have thrown into question and beyond. But excited for it all. Definitely want to continue to keep our eyes on this Clippers series as Russ and these boys, as well as KD on the other side, are putting up great performances, and so excited for it all as it continues to go on. So good stuff here for right now. Again, that's it for today. We're just gonna leave you guys with these two. We'll come back after the Lakers game, which is tonight, and have a reaction to that, as well as some talk about the Tank and Ryan Garcia fight, which is on Saturday. We're very excited for that as well. So for today, DJ, we thank you so much for joining us again. Definitely love having you on. We'll continue to have you on. As you guys have now seen, we had DJ on this week. We had Vic on. We had Jake on. We had Matt on a few times. We have a rotating crew of guys that we'd love to bring on here and talk about a bunch of things. Now that we introduced them to you guys, then we want to mix and match these guys a little bit more and bring them all on to have some fun debates and things. And excited for how the show will continue to go on. But yeah, thank y'all for tuning back in. Excited for all things going on across LA and beyond. And yeah, just want to keep building this thing up, and appreciate y'all for tuning in. So like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, share, whatever you guys say. We appreciate all the love. And yeah, we'll see you guys again shortly, man. We out of here. Peace.
It was